Hello everyone. Thank you for coming today at this Tooling in Action. I hope that you have some great time at DevOps Belgium and that you won't sleep too much in that cinema. So I'm Henry. I'm a software engineer at Criteo, leading a tech company for retargeting and retail media. And today we will talk about why, and we will see why accessibility matters in your web application and in web in general, in order to create a more inclusive and more accessible web for all. Just for whom to want to know, there will be my slide on my GitHub if you want after the talk. So why accessibility? Why we should bother about accessibility? I'm a true believer in the Pareto law, so I won't bother you with some big technical stuff. I really think that with only 20% of the work, we can really achieve and really create a nice, accessible app. So I will really try to give you some small tips in order to create, and while you are building your application, you will be able to create something accessible for everyone. First, we'll see why accessibility is in fact for everyone and not just for some people with disabilities or limitation. Then we will see what I call the STARK method, so 5 little tips to implement in order to have an accessible app, and how we can test it, because tests are sometimes important. Accessibility for everyone. Yes, indeed, accessibility is not just for some people with disabilities. But first, I would like to just remind you what the accessibility means. Accessibility means that we should enable everyone to use your website or your application. Those with limitation, disabilities, or able bodies. According to a 2018 estimate, so there is approximately 25% of the US citizens that are disabled or that need accessibility. So we are not talking about few people in the back of the row, but really a major part of the web user. There is different kind of accessibility. So there is some motor disability, cognitive, visual, or auditory. All these needs, the big thing is that all these needs are solved thanks to built-in tools that are either on your smartphone or in your laptop. This is just a screenshot of my Mac. There is some accessibility shortcut to have the zoom, to have a screen reader, to increase the contrast. So all these tools can help you to build your website. And your job is just to make them work on your application, basically. This is something that everybody knows. When you are building something, you always think that it's perfect, that it works incredibly well, but in fact, you are putting some limits. Like in the real world, your web app can just be blocking users to use it. So this ramp, for example, just before, will help this woman to bring her stairs to bring her suitcase at the top of the stairs. So that's the idea also of accessibility, that it will benefit also users that doesn't have a need every day of your web accessibility, but can leverage the tools that you are putting in place. Same for we can think also as someone that is sleeping to someone else and doesn't want to wake him up due of the audio and just use a caption on a video. So this is the idea why you should bother really, and it's not only for few people, so for people that have the disability and have some needs for it, but it's really for everyone. If it's not enough for you, basically you don't have the choice now. By law, you must care about web accessibility, either in Europe with the European Accessibility Act, in the UK with the Equality Act in 2010, and all the guidelines that you need to set up. This is a good start, but it's some basic stuff that most of your web app feel by default, that you can read the text up to 300% without problem. You can just navigate your website with your keyboard. You can navigate using speech recognition software. You can use screen reader. And also, now it's more and more important because it's taken into account in the SEO, so in the ranking of Google, for example, in Google search. So working well on the accessibility will leverage all the aspects of your app. Okay, so now we will see the Stark method, what I call the Stark method. Sorry for you, we won't talk about Tony Stark or the Stark family. We will talk about something way much funnier. We'll talk about semantic HTML, tab index, ARIA tags, role, or keyboard navigation and screen reader. Stark. Okay, let's start. So semantic HTML. What is semantic HTML? Basically, semantic HTML is just to use HTML tags at the proper place. So you use a button for action, use an A with an href with a link, we use an image with an alternative text. Don't fake settings with CSS. There is plenty of tags, so just use them. And why it's important? Because if you use, for example, a div with unclick action, so to recreate a button, a screen reader will read it as a group and not as a button. So someone with some disability won't know what's the purpose of your item. Also, you have some free accessibility, I want to say. A select can be selected with a spacebar, a button can be clicked with enter, can be tabbed. A navbar can be navigated with arrow keys in your keyboard. So all that stuff are already made and already done for you. So you don't need to bother about it. So why trying to recreate everything when you have some built-in tools in your browser that just do it perfectly well? So just to recap, if you need to remember something, semantic HTML equals free accessibility. So just use HTML tags and everything will be fine. Now we will see and we talk about the tab index. Tab index, for whom do not know, is just to set the tabbing order in your web application, and you can use Firefox, for example, to debug it. So you will just see what will be the order when you will click tab on your website and what will be focused. There is just one rule for that. Don't use, only use -1 and 0 for the tabbing order, and all the rest will be done by himself thanks to the hierarchy of your app. The ARIA tags. ARIA tags, most of you certainly knows about the ARIA label. Maybe some courageous guys or people knows also ARIA labeled by or things like that. But in fact, there is plenty of ARIA tags. There is ARIA label, ARIA checked, ARIA progress bar, ARIA error message. I can't see all of them. But everything is made and done to just better describe how your web application is linked and how the components are linked together. Like that, a screen reader will better knows that this input is linked to this label, to this text, what the purpose of this button if it doesn't have a text, for example, a button with an arrow. So all these ARIA tags are really important and you should just try to use them as much as possible. Next one is the role. The role same. There is plenty of roles. I can't cite all of them, but you can have a role for whatever you think. Either an alert, a button, a checkbox, a grid, an article, a pop-up. There is an infinite number of roles. So just try to use them in order to help the program, such as a screen reader or a screen magnifier, to better describe what's your application. But don't use a role. Use a role only when you can't use directly the HTML tags. For some reason, maybe you can't use directly a button, so you want to put a role button. But use them as a second step, and first use the semantic HTML. So just a little example. Here, what the screen reader will read this A with a role button. If everyone understood? Perfect, like a button. It won't be read as a link, but as a button, so someone with some disability and some limitation will understand that it has an action, and it's just not just a link that redirects to somewhere. The last part, the keyboard navigation. I don't have much to say about keyboard navigation, except just test it. Try to access your web app with your keyboard, with your tab. Try to use a screen reader. Be sure that the focus stays visible in different browsers, for example. But if you put in place everything that I said before, most of the work is already done there. So you don't have a lot to work, and just be sure that everything is well set up and everything is working well. Now we will see how we can test it, because it's fun to make some things, but we all know that at a point we'll need to write some tests. And we have some nice tools for that. We don't want to test it by hand every day. We don't have the time for that. I mean, we always need to create new features. So I will talk about 3 tools, I mean, at least 2, that are automatically and can run directly in the CI to be sure that everything is working properly. We'll first see what I call manual testing, so just to showcase you the accessibility panel and show you what's the purpose of that. Then I will show you Storybook that can be run in the UI and in the CI. And as the last point, I will show you Cypress for end-to-end testing in the UI and in the CI. Okay. So this is Storybook. Storybook is an open source project that allows you to create, with a nice UI, a component library. And you can just add tests directly in it to be sure that everything is working perfectly. But also, there is directly in it, built in, an accessibility panel that will first allows you to check how your component will render depending of the vision of the different people. So as we can see here, just here, there is 23% that have some blurred vision. So the 25% at the beginning is a little bit low, I would say, now. So you will be able to see what will render your component depending of the color vision limitations that a user can have. You can also add some tests for some action depending on where I click, etc. But this is not the goal here. Here I wanted to show you this accessibility tab. Everything passed. That's cool because it's our proper design system, so the one that we use on our website. So that's nice that everything is working perfectly. I'll just zoom a little bit. So the nice part of this tool is that first it will highlight potentially what is going wrong. That, for example, here that we need an ARIA attribute, but also it will give you links and tips on how to fix it. You have some links in order to better understand through the DQ University, to better understand this rule, to better understand how you can fix it and what's the purpose of this rule. For example, putting some ARIA attributes. So all these tests can also be run directly in the CI that I will show you right now. So I have my Storybook running locally. And now if I run, so, okay. So in the CI, it can run directly your test, either your accessibility test, but also your action test, your component test, directly through Playwright. And like that, you can be sure that no component will be merged without being accessible. Because I really think that if your basic components are all accessible. I mean, your button, your links, your card, whatever, are all accessible. Then your website will be easier accessible because every root component will be accessible and working perfectly. Okay, we'll just check if there is an issue. The second tool that I wanted to show you is something a little bit manual, but that's nice to do from time to time, and is the accessibility panel. I like to take the example of Amazon that is quite known for its accessibility. Basically, you can order whatever you want with your keyboard navigation. Through keyboard navigation, you can do almost everything. And if you inspect and you go to the DevTools, you will have this little persona at the top that will change. I can zoom here. That will change how your DOM and your HTML element render. This is how a screen reader reads your website. So you can see that all the image has some alternative text. So it will read the text. It will read the text of the link, if the link is focusable, if what is the purpose of it. So it's a navigation with a different link. So everything will tell you how a screen reader and a user using a screen reader will see your website. So for this, just go sometime to them and check that everything is working properly. That you don't forget some text and that you don't mismatch some usage of some component. The last tool that I wanted to show you is it working? Yeah. Is Cypress. For whom don't know, Cypress is a nice open source project that allows you to do some end-to-end testing. So it will render your app and test whatever you ask him to do. So it's super convenient to be sure that everything is working properly and you doesn't do some regression and you doesn't break feature in your app. You have also some a Cypress audit package that allows you to test all the LI and WCAG rules directly in your app. So of course this can be run either in the CI or in the UI or in the CI. So I will just open Cypress. So Cypress have a really nice app. Then this is work. So this is the UI of Cypress that you can run your test and whatever you want. But here we'll see what's happening in this Git profile GitHub project. So it's just a fork that I've done. It's been blocked by GitHub. Super. Great. Demo effect. Okay. So it basically what the Cypress audit test will do, it will run at the exact moment where you want to test your accessibility. So it will open a new tab and will rerun every action that you asked, and will run the accessibility there. So unfortunately, I have been blocked by GitHub. I don't know why. Later in 27 minutes. I think there is people playing with the API since I'm the DevOps. I am the DevOps. Maybe if I do that. So of course all these tests can be run directly also in the CI, and okay, let's see if it's working now. We should tell the people to not use GitHub while being at DevOps. It doesn't want to load. Too bad. But what I wanted to show you there, unfortunately it's not working, but what I wanted to show you is that it will basically tells you as in Storybook exactly where your error here is. So at the exact node where your component is not accessible, what's the issue, and a link to the DQA University to better understand how you can fix it. So if we recap a bit, I will say that the manual testing is really there to help you to be sure that everything is working properly in a global way, to be sure that you didn't forget something some time to times, because not everything can be tested. Storybook is really there to test all your components, and Cypress will verify that your integration of your components is working properly. Because of course you can do some issues and create some accessibility issues in your app. This is the link of the two tools that I talked about. So Cypress Audit for Cypress and the Storybook LI plugin for Storybook. All these links is super straightforward to install. It's just a matter of doing an npm install. If I need to conclude there, I will just ask you to remember about Stark. So next time you are thinking about accessibility, and just, do you have any question now? Okay, so everything is clear. That's incredible. So since you don't have any question for me, I will have some question for you. We'll do like that. So, sir, can you remember me the 5 letters of the Stark? Ah.
The first is HTML semantic.
Yeah, semantic HTML.
The most important.
Someone can help him? Yes? Tab index, perfect. Aria label, aria tags, yes. Role, perfect. The last one? Keyboard navigation, perfect. I had to go a little bit fast on this topic, but it can be really pushed a lot. You can work on your accessibility really for hours and not having done enough, I want to say. There will be still some issues, still some people that can't access your website properly. But with these 5 ideas, you will be really able to fix the major part of your web application issues for web accessibility. Another question? Okay, so how can you test your? We will still do the game. How can you test your web application, your web accessibility application now? Who wants to answer? Yeah, manually. Okay. Cypress. Sorry. Yeah, Storybook. Yeah, and Cypress. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So thank you.